Final Sunday in the league phase of IPL 2019. Chennai Super Kings make the trip to Mohali, where they face former Chennai boy in Ravichandran Ashwin, who's still trying to come to terms with how that wonderful start that saw Punjab winning 4 out of their first 6 games is just fizzed out, and now they're playing pretty much for pride, just like Bangalore were last evening. Chennai have just about secured a top 2 spot, and they should be taking some confidence into the final week. That's what the table looks like. The cracker for the day is going to be Mumbai v Kolkata at 7:30, with Kolkata desperate to just get the points to pip Hyderabad. But if Mumbai are to win, not only do they secure a top 2 finish, but they'll also ensure that Hyderabad get in on 12 points. Looking ahead to that game, there doesn't seem like there's much to really talk about these two teams as a matchup, but there's plenty to talk about in terms of reviewing Punjab, looking ahead for CSK on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday T20, Ajit Agarkar and Daniel Vittori, both here in their subtle beiges and greys and whatnot.
You're standing out though.
I am I not? Yeah. The cricket itself is our attention. Kings 11 Punjab have won the toss, just like RCB last night, and maybe it should be some fun if the teams on their way out will have some fun. We saw the best of Hetmeyer. Could we see the best of Chris Gale again today? They're going to have a bit of a bowl first. Let's just confirm that news for you. And Punjab have made just the one change. They've brought in Harpreet Brar, who only featured one game against Delhi, got a quick fire 20 and bowled a couple of overs. Arshdeep Singh, the left-arm seamer, has been left out. No other changes. At times, Ajit, at this time of year, the franchises tend to sort of say, all right, we might be out of it, but let's give a few guys a go, make some decisions for us when we look at the next year.
Yeah, and you should, isn't it? I mean, there's not, okay, you want to still win the game and finish the season well, but you'd rather give, Brar has not really had a go. He's played one maybe
game.
2 games?
One
game, yeah. So, good opportunity to see against a tough outfit as well. So, yeah, those are the kind of things that you'd look at, especially with the teams that have struggled. I mean, RCB last night we saw, thankfully give Hetmeyer another go. Came good for them. Maybe that's the case with Kings 11 as well.
Yeah, maybe there's these guys that you also got for big money. You're trying to think, will my auction strategy be better off if I release this or not? Maybe there's a case to give Varun Chakravarti a go, bought for this big, 8.5 crore. They got Prabh Simran Singh, another youngster, for good money, played him a couple of games, then out. Are you sort of tempted by those prospects? Maybe Hetmeyer played into Kohli's calculations.
I think the mystery spinner is injured.
That's the one, Varun Chakravarti.
Yeah, I thought he was injured. Otherwise, I was surprised they wouldn't have given him more opportunities because of how much they spent on him. It is this sort of time of year where you say, do we throw them back into the auction or do we keep them going for another year? Those big price players, and I think the guys who haven't performed are under that cloud a little bit. But franchises more often than not remember what they last saw. So Hetmeyer's the toast of the town. He'll be fine at RCB. He'll get his paycheck next year. It's these last games, and it is important for the team, the way they finish, the way they can debrief, but more importantly for those individuals, because they have pride in their own performance and they want to finish well.
It'll work either way for Hetmeyer, because even if they release him now, the rest of the franchises will remember what he did to Rashid Khan and a good Sunrisers attack on the last day. Chennai, as they typically are, don't change much, so they don't need to. Maybe I thought there was a case of perhaps resting the odd player, turning on the other side of 40, Imran Tahir and Harbhajan Singh. But
odd player, I think they've got a few players coming close to 40 or turning.
Yeah, you round that off. There's a lot of, forget it, that Dad's Army thing has gotten old now, just like Chennai. But you'd think maybe some of them would want to be rested. They've already secured all but a top 2 spot, but MS just doesn't like that.
Yeah, the only thing I would have thought is because there's a travel day tomorrow.
Yeah.
If anything, but in your unit, if somebody's feeling tired or is carrying a niggle, then you look at those things. I think 20-over cricket is not tough. There's a travel in between that can sometimes get to you. But it looks like they've had enough of a break. They were stationed 10 days in Chennai at one point, played 2 or 3 back-to-back games in recent times towards the end of this league phase. So they must have had enough rest. I think all of them must be okay to go at some stages. Yeah. Most guys like Harbhajan have had a bit of a break, mainly played in Chennai as well. So
I think they would have looked to rest Harbhajan if it wasn't the three left-handers. I think Gale, Pooran and Sam Curran in their top 6, and Mahali as well. It's normally a place you try your seam bowlers out, but I think those all those left-handers probably just thought, let's give it a go with Harbhajan again.
All right, so let's move forward because the discussion isn't as much about Chennai. We know what to expect from them, and we will have plenty of opportunity to talk about MSD and CSK as the playoffs week comes by us. But if we look back at Kings 11 Punjab's season review that started with so much promise, and this how it's all just fizzed out over time, we're looking at some of their key aspects and reviewing that with Dan and Ajit. Power play and death bowling could have possibly been two things that went wrong. The dependency on Rahul and Gale with a very different approach that KL Rahul adopted. And then there's injuries and team balance. Often R. Ashwin was struggling to fit in a sixth bowler in the makeup of this team. So let's go bit by bit. Let's start a little bit with the bowling. And from the years that we've seen Punjab in the past, Ankit Rajput wasn't quite given a big go. Shami was, a big man in that sort of team. But both overseas bowlers in some ways let them down, Willian and Andrew Tye. Was that how bad was that when you look back at Punjab's review?
Yeah, I mean it's almost similar to RCB. You probably need that one guy. Okay, Bumrah does it. Bumrah's an exception. He does it for Mumbai, so he can actually lead an attack by himself. But otherwise, you need one overseas guy, experienced guy, who can lead the attack. Maybe help some of the Indian boys out. Not Shami. Shami, I mean, has had a good season. Experienced guy, but. You need somebody with those leadership qualities in the attack who can almost pull everyone along together. I think Tye, they obviously had a lot of hope on Andrew Tye because he's supposed to be the T20 specialist. Didn't have a great season. Whether people have worked him out or it's just form, sometimes confidence, only he'll know. Willian again, a bit hot and cold, didn't have great games. So you need somebody in that attack. I think Mujib they probably didn't trust enough or didn't give enough opportunities.
He also hasn't looked the same bowler though. He also hasn't quite looked the same.
I think Mujib's the key to it all. I think they almost have too many options from the spin bowling perspective, and all those spin bowlers almost want to do the same role.
Yeah.
And I think Mujib is a guy that when he's in his role, when he bowls in that power play, when he generally finishes out by the 14th over.
Now that you mention it, Dan, the numbers come on point. 8 overs, just the 1 wicket. Normally, Mujib, you're relying on to give you a breakthrough more often than not. And the economy is nearly 10 as well.
Well, I'm not sure how many games he's played, but I would expect him to have bowled sort of 20 to 25 overs in the power play. And then he's still young. I think people forget that because he's played a lot of cricket. He's a confidence bowler, and when he's used in the situation early on where he can swing the ball with the way he spins them with the new ball, later on in the innings it doesn't afford him that opportunity, and particularly in Mohali where it actually swings. And I know it seems strange to say that for a spinner, but a lot of what he relies on is the ball skidding on, one holding up, and with that new ball he's so much more effective.
And there's theory about playing with 5 bowlers as well at times. I don't think it's a sound one. I think they got a bit stuck. I think Miller's a curious case. I know we'll come to the batting later.
Yes.
But, they've been trusting Miller for so long. Apart from those 4 or 5 games in that one season when Maxwell and Miller went berserk, particularly in UAE, not even in India, he's always had 1 or 2 decent innings through the season, and I can't remember him winning them a game this year.
And the point you're making is that he occupies that one spot.
Yeah, Sam Curran they've trusted later on. Yeah. He's done a better job with the bat for sure than Miller is, and he's still young, so might improve with the ball as well. So
I like their top 5. Their top 5 is actually good now. I think once Miller's shifted out with Puran coming in, and then Gale there as well.
This is very late now. This is not the team that they played through the course of the season.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, just looking at more numbers on the power play, and they actually are the worst numbers when it comes to bowling in look at the average in the IPL 2019, just 11 wickets, economy of nearly over 9.5, and an average of 67. You look at the bowling attack on paper, Dan, and you see you've got Andrew Tye, who's been a purple cap holder, specialist dead bowler, bad season, Hardis-Willian, Mujib, who has a reputation behind him, and then you've got enough Indian talent in Shami and the 2 Ashwins. So is it just a case of your bowlers just didn't work and therefore the same guys could work next season, or do you need to look at different personnel?
No, I think the same bowlers can work. I think it's just how they're used, and we touched on that before around allocated roles and where they're at their best. And I think what they have at the moment is the likes of Ashwin and Mujib almost wanting to do the same role. So therefore that's a lot of power play overs taken up, a lot of overs taken up before the 12th over. And that just puts pressure in different departments. Shami, as we know, is probably more suited to the new ball and through the middle stages. His death bowling's not as effective. So it means that Tye's bowling a lot of overs at the back end. And once you bowl 2 or 3, even 4 in a row, batsmen are allowed to get used to it. And I think that's what they've found throughout the season, that a lot of guys wanting to do the same thing, and it's difficult to allocate those 20 overs.
Okay,
Dan just mentioned about Ashwin and Mujib wanting to do that power play overs.
Yeah.
I don't think Ashwin's done enough of that this season. I think a lot of the times he's come after the 6th over. Whereas at times they needed him to take that responsibility,
Bowled a lot
especially
more
with
in the power play
Mujib
for
not
CSK,
playing.
yeah.
Maybe it's the conditions in Mohali, obviously, which are a little bit different to in Chennai. But he does like bowling with the new ball. I think he should have done that a few more times. So.
Okay, well, something for Ashwin to reconsider, maybe ahead of next season. But what about the batting? It looks like a damn good top 5 now. Like Dan Vittori says, Nicholas Pooran's got a few innings that have got everyone quite excited, and Sam Curran's been good with the bat. But KL Rahul and Chris Gale at the top. KL Rahul was sensational last season. This season, he either put upon himself or the team put upon him, Ajit, a different role to bat at a strike rate of 105, which is the 3rd slowest, and Faf and Shane Watson have had their struggles and played on slow pitches and chased down smaller scores. But I'm surprised to see Prithvi Shaw in that. But anyway, 105 the strike rate for KL Rahul. It looked like a conscious effort to play a different game. There are a lot of games where he's made up the strike rate later, but that's not necessarily translated in success for Punjab.
Yeah, which is just poor batting for a guy who's in form. I mean, you look at his numbers, someone who bats at the top of the order and can strike at 140, 150.
Oh, yeah.
He did parts of those innings and just went to sleep other parts. I mean, Mumbai got a 100, did he, or a 90 odd?
Yes, he got a 100.
He got a 100 Mumbai.
And
They ended up about 10-15 less from the position they were. They were, I think, 9 overs 100 they were with him and Chris Gale going.
Yeah.
And ended up less than 200 in that game, and with him staying unbeaten.
Yeah.
There was an instance in Chennai where he and Sarfaraz both got 50s. And they didn't get bowled out and still ended up losing a 160 chase.
Yeah.
It's quite it's surprising. I didn't quite fathom those numbers because
Even the other night.
not the player he is.
And there are games where he's gone, he may have gone 140 or so in the power play, and then suddenly in the middle, he's going a strike rate of 80, 90. And we've discussed that to death here, but we're trying to understand why it happened. Now, there is, most of our guests on the show said it puts pressure on the other guys. Then there seemed to be a case where Rahul took the role because Ashwin could come in at 6-7, which you feel is your batting, makes your batting a little thin. So Rahul's taking responsibility.
I suppose it's like we've just discussed around Shreyas Iyer and Gurpreet Singh yesterday, is that I think KL's trying to win the game, and I think that's admirable, and that's what he's trying to do. And because Kings 11 haven't had the season they would like, it probably puts more focus on that strike rate.
Yeah.
Whereas if he'd been able to get over the line in 1 or 2 more games, then he's a mature top order batsman. He's getting them through. He's trying a different role. So it all comes down to winning and losing, and that puts a spotlight on those performances. And it's surprising that his strike rate in the power play is that, because last year he just took it on from ball one. He was so aggressive, and he put so much pressure on opposition teams. It was scary, actually.
If you had to give him a memo of what KL Rahul you want to see in IPL 2020, would be the one this year, would be the one last year?
No, I think I'm sure it'll be a bit of both, a little bit of a mix. I don't think he's batted poorly.
Yeah,
that's the bad part about it. When you're batting as well as he is at the moment, when you're striking the ball so well, getting big runs as well. There was, I forgot who they were playing the other night when they were having a big chase. At one point they needed 18 and over or 20, and he was quite happy just taking singles. I mean, sometimes there's good bowling, sometimes you still have the intention of whacking and you don't quite get it right, which happens. But it didn't look like he almost wanted to score 100 of the last 5, which then becomes next to impossible unless you're. It's one of those days, and it's happened quite often this season. And that could be the difference in Punjab qualifying and not, because he's put them in positions to win and hasn't quite got the job done.
It seems bizarre in a way if we're talking about someone who's got over 500 runs in, putting the spotlight on him. But fact remains that these are runs that create the talking point.
Yeah, because he's in such good form, you expect him to win more. If you're in bad form, you kind of understand that you're playing for a little bit of form. I don't think he was. He's batting superbly for him.
Next season there won't be a World Cup spot on his mind as well when he has to play. So maybe we'll see a different KL Rahul in 2020. Last word on the balance of the team, Dan. Your thoughts on that? The fact that Ashwin was always somewhat struggling to get in the 6th bowling option. He had a lot of young bowlers to try and get 4 overs out of, including Sam Curran. Was there any need for reconsideration? Do they need another proper bowler, another proper all-rounder to just get the balance right?
I think that all-rounder role, I think you look at all the good teams in the IPL, over the course of the IPL, is that 6 and 7 spots always pretty secure. And you look at, Chennai, obviously the best example, in Jadeja and whoever else they've had at the time, Bravo. They've been able to mix and match around that, and I think Kings 11 have been great either side of 6 or 7, and they've tried a lot of different options. They've tried to go with 5 bowlers, or they've brought in the 6th bowler now with Sam Curran. So that ability to work out who the best 6 and 7 are, I think will allow every other person in the team to flourish. And it might be Sam Curran. He may be the guy going forward can do that, but they probably need to find one other guy to complement him as well.
If this game doesn't go right, they're going to finish bottom, which sometimes could look a lot worse than the season's gone. Would you still have the faith in Ashwin as the right man to lead? Is there more right than wrong about this team? And even though the points table may not reflect it at the end of the season?
I think Chris Gayle was really good. Last year we saw Chris Gayle being a bit up and down, especially with terms of fitness, not his ability to bat. You don't quite know whether he can do it over 14 games like he did for the RCB before. We saw a different Chris Gayle this year. I think he was really good, came into this tournament in better shape, better form. So that's a positive. Whether that can happen next year is a question mark. Ashwin, again, you don't quite know. In a season, I don't think there's too much to do with his captaincy, but
his personal form has been very good.
Yeah, does that help the balance of the team? You'll have to look at that. Sometimes your captain needs to be one of your best players at the moment. I mean, Ashwin's had a good season.
You go with that?
Yeah, I think he's done a good job. I think it's difficult for a spin bowling captain because he's trying to manoeuvre around so many different things. His role as a finger spinner is really important, and he wants to be in the right position for himself, but he's also got to manage the team as well. I think the hardest thing for them is that the last 2 seasons they've played so well at the start and then they've fallen away. It's a lot easier to play badly at the start and then pick it up at the end, because that's the lasting memory. I think when you've done so well through those early stages, there must be a lot going on for it to fall apart in 2 seasons in a row. So that's a tricky thing for them to work out, is how can they progress from that fantastic start, which obviously means everyone's playing well, they're doing everything they want, to completely fall away in 2 seasons in a row is a tricky one for the franchise to take.
If you were the owners, Ashwin stays captain next year?
Unless you find a better replacement. I don't think he's done a bad job as captain. I mean, I think he's led them well.
But you have made the point of whether he's the ideal fits in.
Yeah, I mean the 11. I'm not quite sure they'll retain Miller, or in my opinion, I'm not sure I would if he's on big money.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he's giving you enough for a overseas big money player. Chris Gayle, again, you'll have to see in a year's time. With
it's
age, you'd
3
never.
crore David Miller. So.
Yeah, okay.
But you're still saying that maybe look for alternatives.
Yeah,
even if
Sam
you keep
Curran
Miller.
shown better sort of temperament, but at the moment I can't see any alternatives for them unless they find somebody to lead their team. Ashwin looks like the best man.
Same question, Dan. Ashwin, yes
All
or no?
spinners should be captain.
All right, brilliant.
Leave him there.
Excellent. Let's continue conversing about spin bowling. No one does it better than Chennai and MS Dhoni. So let's have a look at the best spin bowling average for a team, and 48 wickets for them. That's significantly more than anybody else in the league put together. And an average of 18.5 for the economy has been excellent. Yes, the Chepauk might have helped, but there have been a few other grounds around that turn every now and then. The way he uses his spinners, and I guess more just how, with the 3 spinners that he does have, there's little you need to tell them.
Yeah, Dan wanted to play for Chennai as well. He didn't get to.
You would love to be under MS.
They cover every base, don't they? I think we've talked about Jadeja and Harbhajan. Sort of, they use them as matchups. Harbhajan bowls to primarily left-handers and does an exceptional job. Jadeja comes on and bowls generally after the power play, but he'll match up as well. And then Tahir's their banker through the middle stages. He bowls the 7th over more often than not, bowls through the middle, and they've just got their roles so outlined that they understand what they need to do. And I think the use of them has been the most important thing.
Just look at home and away numbers. We'll continue the chat around them. And I must ask Ajit whether he thought his erstwhile teammate Harbhajan Singh would still have as much of an impact, given that he's getting close to 39 now. But at home, an economy of under 6, 30 wickets. Away to, they put in a shift.
Yeah, a much easier bowling spin.
Yeah.
So it started already. Here we go.
No, I mean, I was frankly a bit surprised that they retained Harbhajan, but obviously it was to have more options with the way they play or where their conditions are in Chepauk. And one thing they make sure that they do is win majority of the games at home, which then makes the job a lot easier to qualify for the playoffs, which is your first thing to do. So the conditions do help. You can see the difference. I mean,
that away record's still pretty impressive.
Very
isn't
good.
it? He's done a great job with it. And like Harbhajan hasn't played every game either,
Yeah.
has he? They've used them in the right
Yes.
spots, and so they've been clever about their selection as well.
And I
Do things simple. Don't MS Dhoni. I think keeps
Yeah.
everyone in check. There's not too much fancy stuff that goes on within their team. It's like Dan said, everything's just streamlined, and they follow a pattern. Whether they win or not, I mean, they obviously win a lot more than they
Yeah.
lose, so it becomes a bit easier to do that. I think Mumbai is the one team that's bothered them with the same sort of squads that they've had. But otherwise, most teams have, whether they've played them at home or away, have struggled against them.
we talk of MS Dhoni, just look at the numbers for each spinner. And you've got Jadeja, you've got Tahir, you've got Harbhajan Singh, even Mitch Santner when he's come in 4 games. It's not like someone just comes in and goes at 9 or 10 and over. As good as these guys are, Dan, there's an X factor in this, which it just happens to be Dhoni. Last time Jadeja was hardly bowled. He went through a number of games without even getting his 4 overs. And all of a sudden you see a Jadeja who's putting in a shift in 4 overs every game, home and away. Somehow MS just knows what to get out of whom which year.
I think the thing we underappreciate and probably don't give Dhoni enough credit about is that he more than likely understands the spinner when he's bowling well, and not necessarily because of the conditions, but he can see the ball coming out of their hand, he can feel it going into his gloves, he can read their action, he can see their action. So he knows when someone's bowling well, even if the results aren't quite where they are, or the results are better than they're actually bowling. So I think that's a little part of the game that he has over pretty much every other captain. I'm not sure how many keeping captains there are, but I think it would be him, with his experience, his knowledge of them, would keep him ahead of everyone else.
Yeah. So MS Dhoni has been in sensational form, not just as captain, but certainly with the bat. It's been his best ever season as the curtain comes down. Another league season where another playoff spot has been confirmed for Chennai. They've never not made the playoffs, apart, of course, from the 2 years that they didn't feature in the IPL. And 2019, lots of not outs, and that results in a high average in a lot of years, not just this year. But that strike rate of 142, and the fact that with every year scrutiny tends to grow on MS, but maybe from last year's IPL to this, it seems to have been his calling. When he comes to Chennai, he puts on a different approach, he hits the ball differently, and he's still got plenty to offer.
I think it's a better season this year. He batted as well, I think, last year.
Yeah.
He surprised us a bit with the way how he's batted for India. But I think this year, because the guys around him were not in good form, which made his job a lot harder. There's always been a Watson performing at the top of the order, or Raidu had a massive season last year, or Raina. Raina's been their sort of go-to player year after year. Hasn't had a great season. Kedar Jadhav, maybe doesn't play as well or as big as Raina or Raidu, but still a contributor. Hasn't had a season. So MS Dhoni's got to do the bulk of the work every time there's been a tricky situation, whether it's chasing or batting first, and that makes it a better season. I mean, forget the average or the strike rates. All the strike rates are pretty high throughout the course of his IPL career, even though he's batted because he's batted 5 and 6. But because how many games this year he's had an impact on CSK winning, makes it a better season. Because if not for that, they would have probably been in the mix for running for the top 4 spot at the moment.
Sure.
There's some games. I mean, even the RCB game, which they lost by 1 run, almost single-handedly won that game. So I think that's why the impact's been a lot bigger this season.
Now you just have a look at these numbers. Now we all often relate Dhoni as someone who goes hard towards the end. But one thing that it might say just a strike rate of 107, Dan, but what we have seen this year is MS take calculated risks reasonably early too in his innings. He picks and chooses his bowlers. I'm not sure the differences between, say, international cricket and this for him, but he definitely thinks that the IPL is a place where he just figures everything. He's the boss of the IPL and he decides when he wants to go where.
I think Ajit's covered it 100%, and that graphic as well sums it up. The fact that he's probably in a lot of trouble when he comes in before the 14th over because of the form of the rest of the CSK batsmen, and so he's had to build an innings. But once again, because he's so calculating and because he understands pretty much every bowler in the IPL from facing before, and he knows the ones that he dominates, he knows the ones that are nervous bowling to him, and therefore he takes advantage of that. And he does it so many times, you think he's just ticking along, and then he lines up a bowler that he knows. And he only lines them up because he's done it before, and he knows that they're
It
nervous.
works the other way, right? The bowler does tend to get intimidated by the legend.
100%. I've seen it time and time again where certain bowlers have watched Dhoni their whole lives, and then either the first time they bowled to them or the last time they bowled to them, it didn't go that well. So I think he preys on that a little bit, which is once again plays into how good he is. And then once he gets past that 14th over, then he just takes control of the game and is aggressive, puts pressure on everyone, and you see the numbers. And it's been so special because no one else has performed apart from him this year.
He'd love to not bat today though. He'd love to see the others just get the job done. Give him a bit of a break. He's not been 100% as MS Dhoni. Will Dan or Ajit pick him in their Fab 4? Let's have a look at the teams and then figure who wants to pick whom. Who'd like to go first, gentlemen?
Yeah, I'm
He's the defending champion.
Oh, man. You want me to go first? Is it?
Yeah.
I know what Dan's going to do.
I want to pick both.
saving that
I want to pick both Ashwin's Brar and Nanduta. Actually, no.
Well done.
They're bowling first, so I'm going to go not Mohammad Shami actually. I go R Ashwin.
Okay.
R Ashwin and Chris Gale just to
Very
finish off well. So Watson and
Tahir, Jadeja, Harbhajan, Bravo, Dhoni.
Watson and let's go Chahar.
All right. Oh, okay. Great. Plenty of options for you, Daniel.
I'll go Bravo,
Okay.
and I'll go Suresh Raina,
Very well.
and Kel Rahul, and Mandeep Singh.
Okay. Brilliant. We've got your Fab 4 players already making their way out. Before we leave you, remember it's already getting to that part of the year where we're focusing not only on the IPL but also on the upcoming ICC Cricket World Cup. So more wonderful sights and sounds coming your way from London. Here's Visit with me. Oh, nothing better than the food to end that lovely montage of the sights and sounds of London. And it's not just about what you get to see in London, but it's got a history of diversity, the culture, the people. We've seen when India go, there's greater support for India there than perhaps England at times.
It doesn't feel anymore like being in England. London in particular. I mean, although everywhere, Birmingham, if you go, Nottingham, Manchester, it's my favorite place, London. So.
Yeah, annual trip always that year. Welcoming, isn't it? People are
Very much. Even little old New Zealand's well represented in London. There's plenty of Kiwis and Aussies and South Africans over there. So I think you're always made to feel welcome whenever you're there, whether it's your own community or the London wider community. They're always so welcoming, and they love cricket as well. You get a huge passionate following. Not only from the English fans and the Indian fans over there, but all around the world.
I mean, you guys have been to enough tours and enough time in London. I just want to know, outside the cricket field, what was your favourite thing to do there? So places to go, there's so much that London offers.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the food's great.
Yeah.
We've seen a bit of it now. I'm just thinking about London. But
restaurant or two that you always make it a point, this is on my...
Yeah, I think it's such a great place to just get out and walk.
Yeah.
Is one thing. I mean, summer just transformed the city completely, or the country. So...
I look at it now as a parent, and you can't have bored kids in London. There's too much. There's too much to do. There's too many sites. They love going there, so that's always a good sign.
I like you point that out because it's a mix of everything, right? You can still go if you're a kid, you're not going to get bored there. Same time, there's enough from just for the slightly older crowds, the guys that the more mature, like yourself.
Absolutely, it covers every base. So you can, you go and see a show. You take the kids there. You can go anywhere in London, have a great time, and obviously the historical sites. I always know that if everyone's got nothing else to do, we can go to Big Ben, we can go to London Tower.
Go to a museum.
Yeah, go to a museum.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very much to Dan Vittori and Ajit Agarkar, who I hope we'll be in London along with me for the World Cup. No, we won't. We'll be right here. But we wish we get there, and you need to check out visitlondon.com for more, and we'll be having more wonderful sights and sounds of the UK as this tournament goes on. Back to our attention on the IPL game. We'll see how many Chennai can get, and be back with Ajit and Dan for a halftime update. Thanks for watching ESPN Cricinfo Match Day T20.